Today we're gonna make a video.
What's up everybody, my name is Sav, I'm a music producer based in Los Angeles, and today we're going to talk about studio terminology. You might say, hey, I'm not a producer, why do I need to know this stuff? And that's a great question. Ultimately, to best communicate with the person or people that you're working with to create the best track that you can possibly make. And much quicker. For simplicity reasons, I'm just going to break the category of things into two categories: hardware and software. Hardware being physical objects that you would actually find in the room that you can see and touch. Now, software is going to be the opposite. That's going to be what's in the computer. You can't physically see them. There's a large range of how they can affect the way that you sound and your music sounds. So we're going to start with the hardware, the stuff that you can see. I made a little list of things that I think are really important to just know. We're just starting at the ground level here, and we'll build up. So essentially, you have obviously your computer, you have your microphone. We also have monitors, which are the speakers that are usually left and right and get stereo sound, which stereo sound is basically sound that is left and right, not just down the middle, which is called mono. Other things that you might see are a pop filter, which usually goes in front of the mic. I'll put a picture here that allows the p, ts, t, those sounds not to go through into the microphone and unnecessarily create sounds you don't want in your recording. You also might see a MIDI controller. I actually have two MIDI controllers here. They look very different. This one is a piano MIDI controller. It also can function as an electric piano, but I can hook it up to any sound that I want and control it from these keys. Same with this. This is also a MIDI controller. Same functionings, different application. There's also something called a DAW, a digital audio workstation. That's gonna be the programs that are running the music production software. And that leads us into things that are gonna be more integrated in the computer. All right, so these next few terms are really important for you to know as an artist coming into a studio space, and I will explain why. BPM, very important. It means beats per minute. It's essentially the tempo of the track, how fast or slow you want things to sound. So if you want the track to be quicker or slower, you can communicate that to your producer by saying, hey, can we raise the BPM or lower the BPM by X amount. Sometimes it's great to know, depending on what genre you're working in, what BPMs are the most common so that you can even walk into the session knowing approximately where you'd like to start. Another important term is bounce. That's going to be essentially the export of the track, and you can bounce different parts of the track. You can bounce it all together. You can bounce specifically just vocals or just instrumentals, but that's going to be the name of an export, essentially. Another really great term to know is what doubling is, or dubs. A lot of times a producer will say, all right, we need to do some doubles or dubs, doublings of your voice. And a common misconception is that it's not because the take that you just did wasn't up to par for what you're going for, but it's a technique used. A lot of producers will do, especially in today's pop music and indie music. You can use multiple takes and set it up so they're all singing together and they're all mixed together to sound desirable. Just like a choir, having more than one voice happening at once is a desirable texture to have. There's no reason why one person can't sing the same thing or harmonies at different times and then stack them all together to create that chorus kind of effect. So ask your producer about doublings and ask them about techniques like that. The next thing I want to talk about is comping. Comping is the idea that you do a number of takes. You take the best version of each segment to create one single take. So let's say you sing the same line that's a one verse 5 times, and you really liked the way that you said the first word in the first take, but you love the way that you did the middle few words in the third take. Well, your producer most likely can figure out how to kind of Frankenstein them together in a way that makes it sound like it's all one take. And that's the beauty of studio recordings versus live recordings, is that a lot of times you can edit it to be the best version of what you're looking for. And the next few things I'm going to talk about are effects related. This allows you to, when you're coming into a session with a producer, to really communicate what you're looking for and do less of the trial and error back and forth thing. If your producer doesn't know what you want, they're gonna have a hard time delivering for you. And same for you. You don't want to go into a session that you're paying for and have it move slower than you want it to because you don't have the means to communicate what you're hoping to achieve in the session. So these words are especially helpful with communicating to your producer what kind of vibe you're hoping to create, how to adjust once things have started, and move things along in ways that make sense for you. All of these effects are used subjectively and really can inform what kind of genre you're in. So the way that you use them or don't use them will drastically change the way that your track sounds, your voice sounds, and really anything sounds that's going into your mix. One of the classic ones that most people do know about is reverb. So technically reverb is the sound of a room after a sound has been produced inside it. Like when you yell in a stairwell and it's really echoey, that sound that happens after you yell that kind of reverberates is reverb. There's ways to recreate this with something called a plugin, where audio effects are housed, and that is up to the producer and the musician and the artists that are all working together to decide upon how much or little or what parameters they want to work with when they're working with each of these effects. Whenever we talk about effects, it's important to think about it how wet or dry you want it. And it usually goes from a 0%, which is completely dry, to 100%, which is completely wet. Next, a great one to talk about is delay, which is basically an echo. So it's different than a reverb, where it doesn't sound far away, it's just repeated and it will decline over time. There's different ways to also affect this, again, dry and wet, and there's different timings that you can have, different frequencies you can choose for how fast you want it to be, like, hey, 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 or hey, hey, hey. And again, your producer will know what you're talking about when you're bringing up delay. You want more delay, you want a quicker delay or a slower delay. That will be terminology that they will understand and be able to execute for you. Okay, next I'm going to talk about something called EQ. Equalization is a sound processor that can boost or cut particular frequencies in the sound. And the particular frequencies is the part that you have choices over. I'm going to define frequencies as well because I don't want that to be a spot that we don't understand. So frequencies of sound are where vibrations occur. The way that we define frequencies in the sound world are from low to high. The very low frequencies are like a bass or a kick of a drum, or perhaps even like the hum of a refrigerator that's very low. They're not high-pitched sounds or low-pitched sounds. So when we talk about EQ and we're talking about either boosting them so that we hear them more or cutting them so that we hear them less, the way that this is important is that then it can have effects on these particular sounds depending on how you do it. All right, I feel like those are probably some of the most important things to know. If you can think of any more, let me know. Anyways, thanks for being here. Until next time.